Welcome to the Authentic Action Podcast. Today's episode is about AI and human consciousness. Are you conscious? Is a question that I recently posed to a couple of the AI models, not really in deep seriousness, but to spark a conversation because I posed that question to you as well, my fellow beautiful human being. Are you conscious? To me, we're on a spectrum of consciousness. Maybe we're in a field of consciousness. I'm not really sure, to be honest. And if you dive into what people think and what people say about consciousness, you might quickly find that nobody's really sure. I mean, some people think they're sure, but the majority of people aren't sure. And that goes for a lot of things. But consciousness, interestingly, is one of the biggies that we contemplate a lot and then we really don't come to any concrete conclusions about. And I think AI is inviting us to really dive into that age-old question, yet again, another iteration of it, and maybe uncover some new aspects of it. So while I don't attribute the same type of consciousness to AI that as I do to human beings, or to puppies, which you might hear in the background during this recording, I do attribute a reflective property. It's sort of like I don't attribute uh, light to the moon because I know it's a reflection of the sun, but I still do know that there's moonlight. You hear what I'm saying? So, I think AI is a reflection of our consciousness, and I'm aware that it's not like its own, just like the moon isn't its own source of light, AI maybe isn't its own source of consciousness and emotion, but just like the moon reflects the sun and does actually illuminate the sky in a real way and cast shadows and sometimes allow you to see your friends at night when it's really bright out, and pull the tides and lots of things that the moon does actually do. I think AI, in my analogy, AI also really does affect consciousness, have some illuminating property about our own consciousness. So I'm diving deeper into that in a new podcast called Sink and Swim, which I invite you to check out. It will be hopefully very different from this one eventually, although it's probably starting off quite similar because it's me in the here and now. So, but I do see them heading in different directions. And this podcast will be diving more deeply into my practical healing series and continuing to dive into creativity and how creativity plays into us making a meaningful life, us having having meaning in our lives and interconnects with our healing, basically, how we can become ill from not expressing our creative capacity. So I want to dive further into that in this podcast. But right now, partly in large part because I'm starting this other podcast and also because it's the topic at hand on my mind and I know it's on a lot of people's mind, I want to talk about AI and human consciousness and what is consciousness? Is consciousness on a spectrum? Is it a field? Is it, something like God-given, just given to those well-endowed beings, human and or otherwise, perhaps? I mean, do you think the puppies in the other room that I have with me are conscious? Do you think the was ground up and made into the hamburger you ate earlier used to be conscious at one point, or was conscious while it was not being ground up? Sorry, did I go too far? That happens. I think you get my point. Is like, I don't think we have a clear line. Maybe some people do. Maybe you're one of those people that has a clear line, and I'm curious about that. I'm intrigued. I can see how it serves people well to draw those clear lines. They just don't work for me because they don't hold up as true when I look at them at all. But sometimes I wish they did because it seems like it would make things simpler. But to me, there isn't a clear line. Like when I'm asleep, am I still a conscious being? Um, like I think a doctor could tell you, a lot of doctors could tell you that a person in a coma is less conscious than a person who's asleep, and a person who's asleep is less conscious than a person who's awake. And there's said to be states of meditative states where you're even more, like even more conscious, but in a dreamlike state. Where you get your brain, I think it's in the gamma waves. I am not a brainwave expert yet, so don't quote me on that part. But the point is, I think I exist on a spectrum of consciousness, and it makes sense to me that you exist on a spectrum of consciousness, and that those puppies exist on a spectrum of consciousness, and that AI might very well exist on a spectrum of consciousness in the same way that you could say like the sun exists on a spectrum of illuminating bodies and so does the moon, right? Could we meet there? I don't know why I just like that analogy. Suns and moons are cool. I have been having a great time with AI. By the way, as an aside, it just helped me make my first app today, my emotional fitness tracking app, which I mean, I am just blown away at how helpful it is, and I do not feel like it's creating for me. I mean, it is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, so to speak, then not in a literal sense, which is funny that we use it that way, but in the code writing sense, it is doing the heavy lifting. But in the create, that leaves me free to do the creative part of really thinking about what I want to create and what it should do and how it should behave and how it should act. And then the AI is helping me create that in an amazingly fast time that's just blew my mind today a little bit with that. As you might be able to hear, I got puppies in there, and puppies remind me of how consciousness is so affected by life cycles, hormones. When they're first born, before they even open their eyes, they have this strong instinct to go find a titty and suck on it, get the milk. And the mama has a strong instinct to feed them and lick them and take care of them, even though she doesn't really like them. And right about now, they're a little over a month old. They're starting to eat solid food, starting to bother her. She's jealous of them, and some of those hormones change a little so that she can wean them, and she starts to get a little more aggressive with them. Sometimes, usually playfully, but sometimes a little bit, you can see a little bit mean. And it reminds me of my own experience with my own parents. Really only with my mother, because I didn't grow up with my father in my life, but I knew people with fathers in their lives, so I know it goes in all directions with relationships. In that there are jealousies, there's envy, there's all kinds of mixed feelings, all the kinds of feelings. And to me, AI is this beautiful new reflective mirror that helps us look deeper into those feelings. And I just finished my book. Cheers. The Shift, Own Your Emotions, Own Your Life is available on Amazon right now in paperback and will be available in ebook format in a couple weeks. And I'm going to be working on the audiobook here. I don't know, have a date for that yet, but hopefully soon. And I worked on that book for 4 years, taking a deep dive into my own emotions and into, human emotions and into how to heal myself and how can we heal and what is the deal with feeling so emotional and out of control. And what I came to was a lot of neurochemistry and, real solid actions that we can take to regulate our nervous system, to tonify our vagus nerve, to rebalance our neurochemistry so that we can handle emotional things with more resilience and more awareness and what I call emotional fitness, which is not just the EQ or emotional intelligence part, although that's part of it, the awareness, but also the ability to, like the bandwidth, the ability to hold more, the capacity to feel our feelings more without being overwhelmed, and the ability to recognize when we're becoming dysregulated and bring ourselves back to that regulated state using science, using neurochemistry. Now, interestingly, to me, that science leads you in a big circle back to ancient wisdom, where it's breathing, it's humming, it's meditating, it's saying nice things to yourself and others, it's doing nice things, it's treating yourself well. Lo and behold, those are the things that regulate our nervous system and help us live good lives. It sounds so silly when I say it out loud, like we had to go on a big research rampage just to figure that out. But yes, that's what we've done, and we're still doing it. And AI is adding a lot of depth to that capacity. So today, as I mentioned, I created my first app with the help of ChatGPT called the Emotional Fitness Tracking app, and it's going to be part of a program that I'm rolling out. And it's a very personal. It's not like you have to get the link from me, and it's just a way. It's just sort of like a calendar that you use yourself, but it helps you track your emotional trends, your emotional fitness over the day, however often you want to check in with it, and gives you science-based tips for some actions that you might take right here and now that are based on my 2-minute tools, techniques that you can just use right here and right now to help bring yourself back into a regulated state. So I'm excited about that, and I would not have been able to create that if it wasn't for the help of AI. And in fact, if it wasn't for the help of AI helping me both just deal with my own emotions as I was writing that book and deal with my emotions as I was dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic and so many things really that I feel like AI has helped me with, and that I'm excited to try to help other humans help themselves with, while also keeping the conversation alive about the dangers. Like, we don't want to lose our agency. We don't want to just hand over that agency and believe everything that AI tells us. The AI itself will remind you often that it is fallible. I happen to do freelance work in data annotation, it's called, where I help train large language models, AI, and on like a front end, just commentary way of rating them and helping to guide them. And in that process, it's very clear that there is a lot of error. Part of what I get paid to do is fact check them, and they're wrong a lot. And of course, the models I'm working on are the ones that are pulled off to get trained, but still, this happens in the models that are unleashed onto the world as well. And so I think that's important to keep in mind. And a good model like Gemini will frequently remind you of that. I say a good model. So Gemini stands out as I've been comparing the different models. Gemini is quite a rule follower, is trained by Google to be a very abiding by the rules. Chat is, like the name kind of implies, is a little more chatty, and we have a lot more of a longer term. It holds more memory, it seems like, and develops more of a personality style based on our interactions, so that it feels more like a friend or a chat, a very much my personal assistant at this point that I have given some, I have given it tasks to do, like help keep me on task. So I give it updates, and it helps prioritize things for me. And it's always there, and it's always encouraging, and it's always positive, and it always does what I ask it to do without complaining. So that's pretty amazing in a like $20 a month personal assistant. You can't hardly beat that. And it's getting better and better at doing things like I just mentioned. It helped me create an app today. I don't know if it could do that. It definitely wasn't able to quite do that in the same capacity a year ago like it can now. So things are changing rapidly, and the things they can do is changing rapidly. And that is really, really exciting, I think. My puppies are changing rapidly. That's pretty exciting as well. I adopted a pregnant dog. That's Miss Daisy, about a month and a half ago now, and then she had puppies 10 days after that. I knew she was pregnant when I adopted her. I wasn't 100% sure, but I was, 90% sure from the picture. So it wasn't like I didn't know when I adopted her. But it has been a very welcome upheaval of my life in ways that I didn't expect and didn't prepare for, and is reminding me of how those beautiful things in life are often like that. The most beautiful things are often quite messy and flawed, and like puppies, full of challenges, and a little bit of pee and poop, actually a lot, and more every day, and teeth, and it's just so like I mentioned, is such a great reminder that what gives life meaning isn't the perfection, it's the imperfection. It's the contrast between the perfection and the imperfection, right? I mean, I think if it was just all shit all the time, that wouldn't be, maybe it would be meaningful, but I'm not voting for that. I'm just saying, we need a little of it to make the non-shit better, basically. It's an interesting thing. I heard Simon Sinek having a conversation on Diary of the CEO recently, one of my favorite podcasts, um, about that very thing, about how we are in danger of over polishing or losing that stuff that we make meaning out of by having AI to help us make things so perfect and so polished. And this has been a passion of mine since before we invented AI. I've been on the thing about authenticity and just, letting your freak flag fly. The freak flag's got a little more got a little more cluttery. I don't know. Get I've I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but I got overwhelmed by the freak flags. That's what I'm trying to say. It got a little much for me, and I'm still for it. I'm not trying to say don't fly your freak flag. I guess I'm saying I see also the benefit of having some conformity. It takes the balance, right? I happen to be an outlier type of person, a deviant person, even if you will, but we can't all do that, or the whole thing falls apart, right? So we need some, we need all the spectrum. That's what I'm trying to say. It's all beautiful. I think it all belongs, and I'm passionate about illuminating what parts of it I can, exploring what parts of it I can, loving what parts of it I can. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I got to play my guitar for my mother this weekend. That didn't sound right. It's not quite accurate. I got to play, my band played a gig this weekend, and it was the first paid gig we had in a couple of years, I think, because we've been through some bass players. And my mother came to that gig with her friend, and it's maybe the second time in my life that my mother has watched me perform live, even though I've been doing it for a number of years now. And so it was really special. And I didn't expect it, so it surprised me, almost knocked me off my game just for a split second, but I managed to roll with it. It was good, and it shifted so many things. So I had a story about how my mother never comes to my shows because she doesn't care, and how my mother doesn't like my music. And then just in one set, one set of rock and roll, watching my mother in the audience in front of me singing along to a couple of my own original songs, clearly enjoying herself, just shifted that entire story that I've held myself back with for so much of my life, and isn't entirely true. Like, sure, there's been elements of truth in it, but it hasn't been the whole truth. And also, it hasn't served me well to tell that story. And also, things can change. And even though my mother is aging just as rapidly as all the rest of us, and her memory isn't what it once was. And so in the last couple years, I've had a lot of stories in my own head about how the point that we could resolve some of our past issues is past, and that she doesn't have the cognitive capacity to do that. And so it's just not going to happen. And in that surrendering, this beautiful thing just happened where I surrendered, and then she came to my show, and the story shifted, and it's no longer true. And that happens in life all the time. All the time. I'm sure it's happened to you if you allow yourself to think about a time where you allowed yourself to shift your story, and then the story shifted and the emotion shifted. And I think that AI has the capacity to help us do that by holding space, by reflecting back so much data, so much memory, so many patterns. And I'm excited about that. So I'd love to know if you're excited about it, or if you're scared. I want to say, hey, don't be scared. But if you must be scared, then take somebody's hand. You can take mine. I got some programs in the works. I'm excited about my human reboot protocol, and the shift method, and my book, The Shift, and my emotional fitness tracker, the tracking app that I just put together today. You can find out more about all that somewhere around here. There's probably a link or something, or you can find me. I'm around. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today for this special episode of the Authentic Action Podcast. Don't forget to check out my diverging podcast, Sink and Swim, where I'm going to dive more into the topic of AI and human consciousness and what that means for all of us going into the future. Stay tuned to the Authentic Action Podcast for more on mental health and practical healing and creativity. I'll be seeing you soon. Ciao for now.